Exposed, the sinister roleplay my wife took too far. 3 haunting secrets revealed. Jason leaned against the cold kitchen counter, the flickering light above casting erratic shadows on the walls, a fitting backdrop for the growing unease he felt creeping into their lives. The cheerful laughter of his 7-year-old daughter, Lily, and the melodic hum of his wife, Sarah, felt like a warped lullaby in the dark, a stark contrast to the tightening dread coiling in his stomach. This was supposed to be a simple Friday night, an escape from the decaying cedar grove around them. Yet, Sarah's recent fascination with darker themes twisted their innocent role-playing into something sinister that hung heavily in the air, suffocating the joy within their home. It all started innocently enough. They spent nights pretending to be superheroes fighting off imaginary villains. But then, Sarah suggested injecting a bit of the macabre into their playful world. Josephine the Wicked Witch, the Decayed Clown, and, worst of all, the Neighborhood Watchman. What's the harm? She laughed, her eyes dancing with mischief. But laughter echoed differently now, hollow and distant, filling the room with an unsettling chill that sent shivers racing down Jason's spine. In the shadows of their home, an unfamiliar darkness crept closer, one that Jason couldn't shake off. As the nights wore on, he began to sense something wasn't right. Their neighbors whispered as he walked by, their laughter felt like it carried weight, secrets stitched into the very fabric of their suburban life. And the shadows outside their window? They weren't just figments of imagination anymore. Anxiety tightened its claws around his chest when he caught snippets of conversations, hushed voices steeped in tension, punctuated by glances that sent a chill ice cold through his veins. Distracting himself with late-night walks through the house, he noticed Sarah's laptop open, her screen lit with messages hinting at something unnerving, dark interpretations of their games, obsessions with the myth of the Neighborhood Watchman. Jason felt a pit form in his gut as he scrolled, heart racing. This was supposed to be light-hearted fun, but these messages twisted innocent play into something chilling. Images of a predator lurking behind the facade of safety consumed him. To lose a loved one to fear was a nightmare he couldn't bear. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. It was one evening that catastrophe unfurled. Flashes of light outside their window revealed movement, a figure stained by shadows, lingering just out of sight. Jason's heart raced as terror choked his ability to think clearly. With every suppressed breath, fear gnawed at his sanity, forcing him to confront Sarah. She met him with a calm that felt dangerous, a facade crackling under the weight of secrets. "What do you know, Sarah?" he demanded, his voice strained. Her eyes, usually bright, seemed to darken, as if revealing the truth would unravel the invisible thread connecting them to the neighborhood, the thread that felt, at this moment, frayed and perilous. In that heart-stopping moment, it hit him: this wasn't just a silly roleplay. Their home, this charming little place, was stitched together with horrors he couldn't yet comprehend. As he gathered his hat and nearly charged towards the door, a simple thought flared like a scream: were the cheerful faces of their neighbors more sinister than they seemed? Shadows danced outside, whispers grew louder, and the safety of their suburban life felt like a cruel joke. Jason stood frozen at the edge of uncertainty, fear coursing through him. What lay behind those smiling facades? What darkness lurked just outside their door? As he glared into the lurking night, one question echoed in his mind: to protect his family, how deep into the shadows must he venture? Jason stepped outside, the night air biting at his skin. Each rustling leaf felt like a whisper or a warning. The low hum of distant traffic faded into a stickiness of silence that pressed heavily against him. Fear wrapped around his legs, lifting his heart into his throat, but he pressed forward, fueled by a need for answers. The figure that flickered just beyond reach haunted him, a silhouette outlined vaguely against the flickering streetlight. He squinted, hoping to catch a glimpse of this intruder, hoping that it was simply one of the neighbors out for a late walk. Panic gnawed relentlessly. He could feel its teeth on his mind, and his thoughts fastened like chains. He glanced back at the house, its warmth now feeling like a prison. Inside, laughter and innocence echoed in tender tunes; outside, certainty unraveling into despair wrapped tightly around his body. He had to know. He darted down the sidewalk, each step accompanied by imagined creaks of hidden secrets beneath the pavement. Shadowy figures flitted at the edge of his vision, dancing just beyond his understanding. He strained to hear their muffled conversations, fragments of laughter twisted like knives in the air. With every step, dread pooled in his stomach like cold water. "Hello?" he called, attempting to pierce the shroud of darkness. His voice quavered, an echo of his vulnerability. The night held its breath. Just then, out of the corner of his eye, he caught movement, a figure standing at the edge of their driveway, cloaked in darkness, motionless. Jason stalled, his breath hitching in his chest as he fought the urge to retreat. "Who are you?" he challenged, instinctively steeling his own resolve. The figure took a step forward, revealing a face twisted in shrouded features, the epitome of fear made flesh. It was neither a neighbor nor a friend. The air thickened with an unnameable dread, an ethereal quality hanging around them. Those eyes, too wide, too glistening, seemed to promise he was in the depths of something he wasn't ready to face. "Come to play, have we?" It was a voice that cut through the stillness, sending vibrations of cold terror straight to his heart. Jason's throat dry, he sensed the mocking chuckle hidden within the words, a subtle mockery of the games he once thought harmless. "What do you want?" he spat out, each word bitter on his tongue. "I want you to see, Jason, to understand the game you've all been playing." The figure's words dripped like poison. "You've been living in a sweet dream, wrapped in play, while the truth festers just beneath the surface." Jason's knees weakened, visions of laughing children fading into horrific, twisted imagery of monsters lurking, waiting. The laughter from within the house now sounded like a distant plea. He could almost see them, the innocent smiles woven in shadows, and the dreadful thing that could be coming for them instead. With a sudden jolt, he surged forward, aware that he had to break loose from the chilling grip of this figure. "Get away from my family," he shouted, home and heart blazing in his mind. The figure merely tilted its head, mouth stretching into a serpent's grin. "Oh, but you cannot protect them." "Not for long," a crash echoed back from his house, and dread licked his spine like a cold flame. He spun around and raced back, panic driving him faster than thought. What waited at the door? A reality darker than the night. The jovial innocence inside now pierced through with shadows. As Jason burst into the house, screams erupted against the stillness, rending his heart. "Lily! Sarah!" he cried, scrambling through thresholds of fear. And all at once, he was met with a sight that would haunt him forever. In the center of the living room, surrounded by his family, standing behind them, was a shadow, the grotesque embodiment of the neighborhood watchman. Which nightmare had truly begun? As the darkness coiled tighter and a chilling laugh echoed in the air, Jason realized that the game was only just beginning. What had Sarah unleashed? And how far would he have to go to rescue everything he loved? Jason's heart raced as he locked eyes with the shadowy figure. The watchman's eyes glinted with an unnatural light, and Jason felt a swell of desperation claw at him. "Get back!" he shouted, stepping in front of his family like a shield, even as panic thrummed in his veins. "Play the game," the figure crooned, each word laced with malice. "It's far from over." The laughter still echoed in the air, sharp and grating, reverberating off the walls like an unwelcome guest. Lily and Sarah stood bewildered, eyes wide with terror. The room felt smaller, suffocating. Jason's protective instincts flared, everything that mattered was in this room. He needed to defuse the situation fast. "What do you want?" he demanded, voice trembling but trying to mask his fear with bravado. The watchman tilted his head, and that grin stretched wider. "Oh, you'll enjoy finding out," it hissed, taking a purposeful step forward, each movement deliberate, taunting. Jason's instincts screamed to flee, to grab his family and sprint into the night. He turned slightly, scanning the living room for something, anything that could help. But the usual comforts of home felt alien now, twisted by the presence of this nightmare. "Lily, Sarah, we need to go," he insisted, but neither of them moved. They seemed frozen, entranced by the horror unfolding before them. Suddenly, from behind the watchman, shadows surged like a tide sweeping through the house. They hissed softly, low and chilling, coiling around his family like venomous smoke. Jason's throat constricted as he realized they were reflections of the taunting figure, manifestations of fear itself. "Your precious family is but a flicker," the watchman said, voice thick with mocking disdain. "What will they become when left in the dark?" Jason stepped forward, the instinct to protect surging again within him. "Leave them alone." A flash of anger sparked within the watchman. "You dare interject? This is not your story to author." It extended a gloved hand, gesturing toward the shadows pressing in on Lily and Sarah. "No!" Jason erupted. He lunged, driving his shoulder into the figure, but his body passed right through like smoke. He staggered, heart racing, horror washing over him. There was no physical form to fight against, only fear embodied. Lily's voice broke through the chaos. "Dad, help us!" she cried, the innocence in her plea striking him like a whip. Desperation gnawed at him. "Stop it! Whatever this game is, I want to play." His voice cracked, but he refused to back down. He wouldn't lose them. The watchman laughed, a guttural sound dripping with malice. "You think denial will save you? The game must play out each piece in place, and you are but a pawn." Jason's mind raced, replaying fragments of the last few days, the hints, the warnings, the cryptic messages that had slipped under the surface of his life. "What did Sarah do?" he whispered, piecing it together like a puzzle. A gleam flickered in the watchman's eyes. "Ah, but the truth is not for you to discover just yet." It loomed closer to his family, and with a swift motion, the room dimmed. Shadows thickened, wrapping around his girls, whispering fears that made Jason's blood run cold. "No!" He lunged forward again, with the phantom threat clawing at his back. "You'll leave my family alone." But the watchman merely grinned wider, mocking the potency of Jason's emotions. "You'll see when the time is right," it hissed, before a burst of darkness engulfed the room. In the blink of an eye, everything shifted. The shadows retracted, taking the figure with them, leaving Jason standing alone in a living room that felt suddenly bare, almost serene in the aftermath. "Where did it go?" Sarah asked, trembling. I don't know," Jason stammered, turning. But as he looked around, his heart dropped. The walls felt different, as if they de-shifted slightly. The air felt heavier, filled with an inexplicable pulse of dread, as if something beyond them was waiting to strike. Then, they heard it, a distant, echoing laughter creeping back, a promise of what was to come as darkness seeped into the edges of their reality. "What are we really dealing with?" he whispered, dread settling in the pit of his stomach. The game had just begun, and Jason realized that some secrets don't just haunt, you must confront them to survive. But would he be strong enough to face the horrors he'd yet to uncover? The laughter reverberated through the room, bouncing off the walls and curling around Jason's heart like a vice. It clawed at his sanity, a reminder that dread was not banished but merely hiding, waiting to spring forth again. He could feel the fear freezing his legs, setting him in place while his mind raced like a furious wind. Lily's voice trembled, and his heart twisted at the sound. He turned to her, eyes brimming with terror. "What do we do?" We find a way out," he managed to say, though uncertainty thickened his throat. The room had transformed. What had once seemed familiar was now laden with an oppressive stillness, shadows creeping in all corners, as if they were breathing. "Listen," Sarah whispered, gripping the edge of the couch. The silence hummed like a loaded gun. His girls' breaths, quickened and shallow, echoed around him. Lily said again, her voice barely above a murmur. "What if it comes back?" His eyes darted toward the windows, but the streetlights outside flickered uncertainly, and the night hung heavy like a wet blanket. "We can't stay here. We need to." Before he could finish, the lights flickered, plunging them into darkness for a heartbeat. A loud bang echoed, making them jump. It came from the hallway. Each pulse of shadow that danced around felt like sinister fingers probing their reality. "Who is there?" Jason shouted, hoping that the bravado in his voice would stave off the encroaching panic. No answer came, only the growing weight of the dark, pressing in on him. The laughter returned, surrounding him, filling the room until it was all he could hear. "Jason, play the game," it echoed, mocking as if it were all around. "Enough!" he cried, bracing himself, grounding his resolve. "Enough of this." Foolishly, he strode toward the hallway, guided by desperation. Beyond it lay their family photos and memories collected in frames, what remained of a life that felt increasingly unreal. Each step he took felt like a dare against the lurking shadows. As he reached the hall, he paused. An icy breath swept through the corridor, brushing against his face, whispering like a lover's promise. He shuddered. Then he noticed it, the shadows formed images, twisted yet familiar. The faces of loved ones, long gone. Aunt Mabel, grinning as she had in that last family reunion. A neighbor's son, last seen waving goodbye before his disappearance. "Jason," came Sarah's soft voice from behind him, a warning that he couldn't ignore. But he stepped deeper into the murk of memories. "What do you want?" he demanded into the void, his voice now an echo among echoes. The shadows shifted, and the watchman's form started to materialize once more, features twisting into forms Jason recognized all too well. "You've already lost, Jason. You are but a spectator in this play." "No!" he shouted, instinctively stepping back. His heart hammered in his chest, terror clawing its way to his throat, choking him. The watchman extended a hand dripping with malice. "More than just your fear feeds me." No one escapes, they become part of the story. Jason felt the coldness of truth rush through him. "No. I won't let you take them." He spun around, eyes desperate for his daughters. But the living room was empty. "What?" "No." Panic deepened like a chasm. He stumbled back, reaching for the wall as a vision struck him, an image of Sarah, lost in the dark. Laughter rang again, swirling with malcontent, and he gripped his head in despair. "Jason," a whisper drew him, soft and far. "Lily! Help us!" Her voice wove through the air, shaky yet filled with the fervor of hope, a shout trapped in a world where shadows suffocated reality. He had to act, and act fast. Was the watchman playing tricks on him? Was this all part of the game? Straining through the darkness, he felt his resolve harden. Courage surged. He pushed toward the source, toward their screams, fear igniting his movements. As he raced deeper into the house, the shadows grasped at him, boiling with rage, lashing like serpents. "Family first!" he yelled defiantly, pushing through the chaos, the sound of his own heartbeat drowning out all else. With every step, the atmosphere thickened, heavy with dread. But something in him tugged a desperate need to save them. Then he saw at a door he had never noticed before, shrouded in darkness at the end of the hallway. A flicker from behind it beckoned, sinister and enchanting. What lay on the other side? All he knew was that whatever lived in that door would be the key to either his family's survival or their ultimate doom. He clenched his jaw, preparing for whatever came next. But the shadows danced behind him, whispering secrets he was not yet ready to understand. "Jason," it taunted him. "Time to play." As he reached for the doorknob, a chill swept over him, freezing his muscles, a whisper of fate hanging in the air. Would he find his family, or would he open a door better left shut? The doorknob felt slick and cold beneath Jason's palm, like the touch of a graveyard's frost. With every heartbeat, a sickening pulse throbbed deep in his chest, a reminder that dread lingered just beyond the threshold. He hesitated, desperate for a moment of clarity amid the chaos. "Jason!" The girls' voices echoed again, this time more distant, fragmenting into distorted whispers. He twisted the knob, forcing the door open. A waft of chilled air rushed past him, carrying the scent of damp earth and despair. He stepped inside, taking in a room that felt like a forgotten memory. The walls were lined with cracked mirrors reflecting endless, warped versions of himself. "Lily! Sarah!" he shouted, battling the growing tension in the pit of his stomach. The room was dark, but a dim light flickered from one corner. For a second, it sparked a fleeting hope within him, yet the shadows felt alive, crawling toward him, watching with voracious interest. In the dimness, something danced along the periphery of his vision. Glimpses of movement stirred, a flicker of familiar shapes, too quick to be caught. He turned, forcing himself to peer deeper into that dreadful darkness. Every instinct screamed for him to flee, but his daughters needed him. "Jason, come and play." The watchman's sinister voice seeped through the layers of shadow, a sickening invitation. It slithered around Jason, tightening the grip of terror. The darkness twisted, creating figures that mimicked laughter, echoing his daughters' voices. "Stop it!" he shouted, desperation giving him the strength to push through the swirling folds of fear. He would not succumb. Then he saw them, a flicker of light illuminating two slight figures huddled in the far corner beneath a tattered blanket. Relief washed over him like a wave. He rushed forward, but the shadows leaped, tearing at his clothing, pulling him back with thin, skeletal fingers. "Help us, Daddy!" Lily's voice, sweet and urgent, pierced through the haze, igniting his soul. The sight of them, so close yet so far, fueled his resolve. He fought against the multitude of tendrils writhing around him, desperation lending him adrenaline-fueled strength. "Hold on!" he cried, feeling the fabric of his shirt tear as the shadows sought to drag him away. He kicked and clawed, his heart thunderous, the pulse echoing in his ears, drowning out everything else. The shadows shrieked, a cacophony of fury. Shadows turned sharper, jagged edges like knives slicing through the air, threatening to rip his skin while clawing at his sanity. "Jason, you can't." "They are ours," came the furious chant, the watchman's taunt resonating through the upheaval of darkness. "Get away from them!" With a primal scream, he broke through. Rushing toward the girls, their faces illuminated by the light, tears streaming and fear evident. They were alive. Their fragile forms curled into each other, a bright spot in the consuming dark. Yet just as he reached them, a terrible force yanked him back, the watchman's laughter reverberating around him, filled with malice. Shadows surged, enveloping his daughters in black, ripping apart the glimmer of hope he had found. "No!" He lunged again, but the darkness wrapped tighter, becoming a garrote of dread. He felt helpless, powerless against the churning black. The last thing he heard before being rendered deaf was the fading echo of their cries. "Father!" The room spun, and he was thrown backward into the cold, dark expanse, darkness swallowing the light completely. His body hit the ground, and he gasped for breath, gasping in the empty silence around him, the absence of his girls piercing him like ice. Then he was alone, trembling at the very idea of what lay ahead, frayed sanity gripped in the palm of something far more wicked. What if this was only the beginning? As the shadows swirled around him, he felt the pull of a truth hanging in the stillness that shattered his every hope, a truth he had yet to uncover, but one that beckoned him deeper into its embrace. What dark role had the watchman cast him in? Would he dare step back into the light, or lose himself forever in the darkness? Darkness smothered him, thick and suffocating, like an endless night. Jason lay sprawled, heart racing, every breath sharp and painful. The silence wrapped around him, amplifying the weight of his despair. His mind raced, flickering between thoughts of his daughters and the insidious laughter of the watchman. He blinked against the oppressive gloom. He had to get back to them. "Help me!" A whisper snaked through the shadows. It wasn't his daughters, but something else, something more sinister. The sound twisted around him, taunting, drawing closer. He pushed himself to his feet, eyes desperate to pierce the black. He took a step, and the floor creaked beneath him, each sound echoing. He could almost feel the malevolence pressing against his skin, urging him to stop. As much as his instincts screamed for him to run, he had no choice but to move forward. Jason were waiting. This time, the voices were mingled with hisses and moans, a dissonant chorus that threatened to drown him. His pulse hammered in his ears, drowning out the rhythm of the room. The flickering light from before pulsed in the distance, barely pushing back the encroaching darkness. Jason stumbled toward it, each step laden with uncertainty. He hesitated before crossing into the illuminated circle, the contrasting warmth a stark reminder of the chilling void surrounding him. There, he found the remnants of a forgotten reality. A child's toy lay on the ground, a cracked red ball, its surface dulled with age. A chill raced down his spine. It felt wrong. Items lingered, abandoned with careless malice. A tiny shoe, a frayed teddy bear, their presence heavy with memories he didn't want to face. How many children had played here before them? Jason. The whisper slithered through the air again, a ghostly echo urging him to surrender. The moment hung like a storm cloud, ready to unleash chaos. "Enough!" he shouted, drawing strength from deep within. "Leave me alone." In response, the shadows thickened, swirling, becoming tangible claws that tore at his sanity. A wave of despair crashed into him, but he wouldn't let it swallow him. He grasped the cracked ball, holding it tightly, as if to squeeze out the last remnants of courage within him. "Take the game or lose what you cherish most," another whisper taunted, the watchman's voice weaving in and out of the ghastly chorus. His heart dropped. The choice gripped him tighter than the shadows, whispering the fate of his daughters. What if this was a ruse? What if surrendering would doom them? But what would he be willing to sacrifice to save them? He released the ball, watching as it rolled away into the dark, its path disappearing into the void. The shadows erupted, a screech of rage as they lurched toward him, fueled by a mess of indescribable wrath. He turned to run but felt a coldness grip his ankle, dragging him down. Jason hit the ground hard, panic coursing through his veins as he clawed desperately at the floor. The darkness surged around him like a tide, swallowing the flicker of hope. The shadows began to merge into forms, horrific outlines of writhing faces that grinned with malice. They surrounded him, whispering secrets he longed to forget. Jason felt a window of clarity cut through the terror. "Enough!" he roared into the void. But as he did, the shadows snapped tight around him, closing his world. He gasped as darkness pressed in on his throat, forcing him to submit. In that moment, he understood. The game had only just begun. What new horrors awaited him as the watchman tightened his grip? Would he find the strength to defy the game, or would the shadows drag him down into their eternal embrace? Jason's heart raced, each beat an echo as he fought against the darkness binding him. He could barely see through the oppressive haze, but he could feel the cold breath of the shadows. They whispered, weaving in and out of his thoughts, relentless and cruel. "Join us, Jason, we know your fears." Their voices shifted like the wind, blending into one sinister symphony. He squeezed his eyes shut, struggling against their grasp. Memories flooded him, his daughter's laughter, their caring smiles. The thought of them brought fire to his soul, cutting through the cold despair. With a roar, he twisted violently, breaking free of the clutches tightening around him. He pushed himself onto his knees, gasping as the shadows recoiled, allowing him a moment of air, a cruel sliver of hope. "I won't give in," he shouted. But the watchman was persistent. "Will you fight for your children? Or are you too weak?" Images of his daughters flashed before him, Maya dancing in the living room, Lily's earnest look, her bright eyes begging to be understood. They needed him. He couldn't let the darkness win. Jason steadied his breath, planting his hands on the cool floor. He felt the familiar contours of the now ruined sepulchre of childhood toys around him. He could turn primal rage into resolve. Where there was despair, he would forge strength. In the flicker of light, he noticed something glimmering. A shard of glass lay in the distance, catching the weak light. Was it a way out? Or another trap? "Come to the edge, Jason, see what awaits you in the darkness," the disembodied voice teased, slithering around him. Heart pounding, he forced himself forward, crawling on the wooden floor. He clawed through dust and debris, inching toward the glass. But even as he moved, he could feel the atmosphere shift, darkening once more. Suddenly, the whispers took on a new cadence. They began mimicking his daughters' voices, drifting closer and closer, layered with false sweetness. "Daddy, we're scared, help us now!" he screamed, covering his ears. It was a cruel mockery, but it silenced the shadows momentarily. Just long enough for him to reach the shard. He grasped it tight, the rough edges piercing his palm. Pain steadied him, bringing focus back to his mission. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore, he was fighting for them. With a newfound determination, he turned to face the looming darkness. "I will save them. You'll never win." The shadowy forms hissed back, their whispers rising to a chaotic crescendo. They charged him, faces twisted and ugly, intent on breaking his spirit. But Jason held the shard steady, ready to sever the bonds wrapping around him. He could feel their energy, thick and suffocating, desperate to consume him as they lunged. Shrill, terrible laughter filled the air like nails grating against glass. "Do it then, Jason. Release your anger." The watchman howled, his voice layered with echoes of laughter and torment. Just as the shadowy mass surged forward, Jason swung the shard with all his might, aiming for the heart of darkness itself. The moment the glass connected, a deafening scream shattered the room. The shadows distorted, splintering away like shattered glass, revealing something horrific, a face among the darkness. It was familiar yet twisted, Jason's own face, reflecting torment and despair. "Now you've seen what you became, feel the truth," it hissed. Jason staggered back, the realization chilling him to the bone. It was all a reflection of his own fears. Would he be willing to face it, or would he fall into the depths of despair? Behind him, he could almost hear the faintest echo of his daughter's voices, urging him to push forward. His breath quickened. What awaited him in this battle against himself? Would he fight against the dark reflection, or succumb to the horror lying in wait? The battle had just begun. Jason stumbled back, his hand still clutching the shard, as the shadow of his reflection faded into the gloom. The laughter hung in the air, mingling with the sharp smell of fear which permeated the space. He blinked hard, fighting to shake off the haze threatening to engulf him again. Fragmented memories started pouring in, vague moments intertwined with the echo of his daughter's voices. "Daddy, save us." It spiraled around him like smoke, each whisper a blade to his heart. He could not lose them, not to this. Taking a deep breath, he steeled himself. He couldn't let the dark aspects of himself take the lead. It was time to fight. Focus, Jason. The shard felt solid in his grip, a reminder of his purpose. He raised it high, feeling its sharp edges cut into his skin, the pain grounding him to the present, away from the evil slicking through the shadows. With a surge of adrenaline, he turned his attention to the depths of the darkness. He roared into it again, a primal challenge. "You think you can break me? I'm stronger than you know." The darkness trembled momentarily, a response tinged with uncertainty. For a heartbeat, the whispering voices quieted. Had he shaken it? Or was there something more? Then, in an instant, the shadow surged back, a merciless wave crashing over him, slashing his bravado. They swirled like smoke, coiling around him, squeezing tight. He could feel their breath, icy and rancid on his skin, laced with bitterness. They knew his fears. "Give in, Jason. Let the darkness embrace you," they hissed, incomprehensibly wrapping him in their suffocating grip. Images of failure flooded his mind, moments he had let his daughters down, thoughts of the dreams he hadn't fulfilled for them. Each vision was like a dagger, piercing deeper into his resolve. But then he felt the warmth of hope. Memories of happier times surged back, slumber parties, late-night ice cream runs, and the sound of giggles that filled their home like music. Those were strong ties, pure light and love that anchored him. "No," he shouted defiantly, hearing his voice emerge from the haze, louder and more potent. "I will not succumb to you." With a cry of desperation and determination, he launched himself deeper into the darkness, each word a thrust against despair. He felt the edges of the fog beginning to crack, exposing soft spots of light that beckoned him forward. The darkness lashed out one more time, forming figures of anguish. They clawed at his mind, whispering relentless torment. "You'll never be worthy. You've lost them. They're slipping away, no." Jason screamed, the shard glinting ominously in the dim light as he swung it wildly. In the tumult, he caught another glimpse of that familiar tormented face, reflecting back at him, haunted. "Enough!" he bellowed, as the shadows shrieked. Desperation turned into fierce resolve. He had to believe he could reshape this nightmare. He thrust the shard again and again into the chaos, breaking through the thick shadows like glass shattering. Light began to filter through, illuminating the faces of the darkness, grotesque versions of those he loved, twisted by his own fears. They morphed into lifeless husks that mocked him with their taunting grins. But Jason pressed onward, ripping the last remnants of despair away. "Fight with me," he whispered, his voice breaking through wave after wave of corruptive energy, directing it back toward the abyss. "Fight with me." The shadows recoiled, as if stung by his words. But the laughter hadn't fully stopped. It now seemed more sinister, stretching from the corners like shadowy fingers grasping at his sanity. His gaze darted around the disintegrating darkness. Something new flickered within the dimness, a glimmering presence that felt oddly familiar, caught between hope and dread. As it called out to him, a chill ran down his spine. Was this a new ally? Or a trap designed to ensnare him further? In the depths of his turmoil, Jason felt something shift. A shadowed figure drifted closer, forming out of the very essence of the swirling black. His heart thundered as he squinted, trying to recognize this entity that wavered before him. "Help me find them," he breathed, ready to face whatever came next. The figure smiled, but it wasn't a reassurance. Instead, it was the beginning of something even darker than he could imagine. "Let us make a deal, Jason," it whispered, drawing closer. Had he unwittingly walked into a fate worse than before? What truths lay within the shadows that surrounded him now, and could he rely on anything but his own will? Jason's pulse quickened as the figure materialized further, its features sharpening amidst the swirling shadows. The flickering light caught a hint of familiarity in its smile, one he could almost recognize. But as the darkness shifted, he felt an all-consuming dread cover him like a shroud. "Let us make a deal, Jason," it repeated, its voice smooth but dripping with malice. "I'll help you save your daughters. But first, you must give me something in return." What could he possibly give? Panic tightened his throat. He had nothing left that mattered, or did he? The shard pulsed in his hand, a lifeline amidst despair. "What do you want?" he managed, throat dry. "Oh, nothing much," the entity said, eyes gleaming with a sickening delight. "Just a piece of your soul. A small price for the lives of those you hold dear." "Wouldn't he, you say?" His soul. The word echoed cruelly in the back of his mind. Memories of every moment spent with his daughters cascaded through him, laughter, tears, their joyful faces lighting up his life. Could he really bargain with something so precious? "No," he protested, voice trembling. "I'll find them myself." "Do you truly believe that? Do you think you can escape me without my help?" The entity's voice became a guttural growl, as the shadows thickened and slithered around him, seeking to reclaim him. Jason could feel the suffocating presence pressing down, twisting his limbs with fear. I won't give you anything." The shard glimmered defiantly as he lifted it toward the figure, channeling every ounce of strength into the twisted edges of its cold surface. But the being laughed, the sound shaking the very air around him. "Defiance is futile. Look around you, Jason." It gestured expansively, and the darkness peeled back like a curtain. Suddenly, images flashed around him, everything he had hidden from himself. Visions of missed birthdays, late-night work calls, and the scattered toys of playground memories now stained with shadows of guilt. He felt the despair become a tangible weight more suffocating than the darkness that clung to him. "They're lost, Jason. Just like you. You think fighting will save them?" "It only leads deeper into this abyss," the figure cooed, as it receded slightly, allowing him a moment to breathe, to think. Jason's heart raced erratically. Could this be the truth? Was he already too late? The laughter returned, morphing into a cacophony of sorrowful cries, his daughters, bound within the depths, pleading for release. "Listen to them," the figure crooned, its eyes narrowing with a terrible hunger. "You have a choice: accept my help or let go. You're only delaying the inevitable." There was a sly flicker in its gaze as the shadows flared with an almost electric energy. His resolve faltered momentarily. Doubt surged, causing his grip on the shard to slip, but he pulled it tight once more. "I will not give in," Jason shouted into the void, as determination clashed against despair within him. "Then prepare yourself," the entity hissed, melting back into the abyss. "Soon you'll find that darkness has a way of wearing down even the strongest hearts." "I will be waiting." Jason stood alone, heart pounding, but the warmth of love heralded by memories fought desperately against the encroaching shadows. But as silence blanketed him again, the darkness continued to whisper an enticing allure filled with promises that echoed like sirens, captivating with every lingering note. The notion of surrender crept relentlessly into his mind, wrapping around his thoughts like a noose. Suddenly, the faintest glow flickered behind him, a small, beckoning light that might lead to salvation. But was it real, or another trick of the dark? Jason strained, torn between choices, each pulse of the shard reminding him of why he fought. And just before he could reach for the flicker, he heard a small voice, a soft, familiar whisper laced with fear. "Daddy, help!" Panic speared through him. Time was running thin. Could he reach the light and save them, or would he be consumed by the darkness once and for all? Jason stepped with resolve toward the glimmer, even as the shadows howled around him. But where would the path lead him? Was the light cleansing or a further entrapment of the shadows' design? In the silence, a chilling thought crept within him. Was he truly ready to face the ultimate truth, that the fight had only just begun? Jason squared his shoulders, determination coursing through him like a wildfire. The flicker of light danced feverishly, a beacon amidst the swirling shadows. He could almost feel the warmth beckoning him, Lily's laughter, Sarah's gentle touch, all intertwining with the glimmering hope of salvation. It was time to seize the moment. "Hold on, girls, I'm coming," he shouted, lunging forward, but the darkness clawed back, furious at his defiance. Shadows writhed and twisted, monstrous forms springing forward, but Jason charged ahead, grit replacing fear. "Let them go!" he roared, brandishing the shard like a sword. Each step he took shattered the hold of despair, forcing the darkness to recoil slightly, snatching at air where he once stood. With every ounce of his being, he focused on the flickering light. He burst into the radiance, heart pounding, and suddenly he was standing in a room adorned with muted colors, devoid of shadows and eternal light, bright and unyielding. "Daddy!" Lilia's voice rang out. Jason turned, stumbling forward as he found his daughters, huddled together, their eyes wide with fear and hope. Relief flooded over him, filling the hollow pit of despair that had clutched at his heart. "There you are! I've got you," he gasped, wrapping his arms around Lily and Sarah like a physical barrier against the darkness that still threatened beyond. But was this safety? Would stepping away from the light trap them in another layer of fear? "Daddy, we were scared," Lily sobbed, clinging to him like a lifeline. The shadows loomed at the edge of the room, sinister murmurs whispering threats and taunts, always reminding him of the game still at hand. Just then, the watchman materialized, eyes gleaming with malice, still shrouded in darkness. "Did you believe the light would save you?" "It's merely another illusion," it sneered, slithering closer as the light began to flicker, the shadows pushing at the edges, greedy to reclaim their power. "No!" Jason shouted, stepping protectively in front of his daughters. He felt the shard still clutched tightly in his palm, as if channeling all the love and courage he had for his family into that forbidden weapon. Jason pushed forward, putting himself between the figure and his daughters. "It ends now." He gripped the shard tightly. "I won't let you take them." The shadows responded, twisting in fury, clawing at the very fabric of the room, but Jason's spirit ignited with the power of a father's love. "Face me," he commanded, directing the weight of his defiance at the watchman. "You think you can have power over love? You're wrong." The watchman's laughter echoed, sinister and grating. "Love is weakness, Jason. You will see. The game will consume you." Jason met the darkness with defiance in his heart. "No, it won't. Love is strength, and I'll fight for it." He brandished the shard, and in that moment, the light flared, brighter than ever before, pushing the shadows further back. As the radiant light engulfed them, he felt the warmth against his skin, a direct contrast to the icy terror that the watchman represented. In a desperate act, he lunged forward, plunging the shard into the heart of the shadowy figure. "No!" The watchman screamed, horror etched on its twisted visage. With a final surge of strength, a crack rippled through the air, causing darkness to peel away like an old wallpaper, revealing vibrant colors and hues. The laughter within ceased abruptly, swallowed by the brightness that burst forth. With every fiber of Jason's being, he summoned the love he held for his family, the playful laughter, the bedtime stories shared, the warmth of their embraces, everything brightening the darkness. "We will not be part of your game," Jason bellowed, maintaining his grip on the shard as everything exploded into brilliant light. With a deafening roar, the shadowy figure splintered into thousands of tiny shards, dissolving before his eyes. The dark whispers ceased, and in their place, the echo of laughter danced triumphantly through the air. Finally, they were free. The oppressive atmosphere lifted like a fallen curtain, revealing a familiar space home. The living room felt warm and inviting once again. "Daddy?" Lily whispered, eyes brimming with tears. "Did we win?" Jason knelt down, pulling both girls into his arms, relief flooding through him like sunshine. "Yes. We did it. We're safe now." Tears ran freely down Sarah's cheeks. "I was so scared, Jason. I thought I'd lost you both." Jason held them tighter, taking in the radiant relief of his family all around him. "We're together now, and that's all that matters. We faced the darkness, and we conquered it." As the gentle light enveloped them, Jason realized something profound. They could always find strength and love in each other. The shadows might loom, but they had the power to rise above and illuminate even the darkest corners. He sighed deeply, feeling warmth flood his heart. "No games left to be played," he whispered. "Let us live. Let us fill every moment with laughter and joy." As they stood, Jason embraced his daughters, his heart lighter than the day before. With their hands clasped together, they stepped back into the world outside, knowing they would always face whatever came next as a family. But as they walked into the light of a new dawn, a familiar shadow flickered at the edge of the street. Jason shivered but didn't turn, because he knew now love could always conquer fear. Now that you've reached the end of this thrilling conclusion, here comes your crucial moment. You need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that are just around the corner. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support drives this channel, and it's time to show us some love. And don't keep the excitement to yourself. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. We want to hear from you. Finally, this is your moment. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans understand how important it is to support the channel through these actions.